Sorry about the little delay there. I was just sorting out the chat overlay. I probably need to come up with a better way of managing that chat overlay. Either way, today we're going to just paint up this Rohan house. We started it on our last stream, so on this one I just want to continue, but I could quickly come on and we could paint this up together. It is pretty late, it's 11:30, so it might be that no one's on and I'm streaming to myself, but if that's the case, no worries, it gives me a bit of practice. So you can see since the last stream we've now completed all the modelling of the house. There's no real proper door and there's no real proper window. We did this paint job on the last one, so we're just going to continue on. Also the top of the house took the idea that was given by one of the viewers in the last episode, where we bent a bit of foam over the top to create the cap on the building. So with that, let's get started. I think we could start with the roof, because I think what I'm going to do with this is we're going to use the air gun. If I just pop down here and I've got my air gun here, so we can just use that. I use a really cheap one. I bought this one from Amazon. It was really cheap, came with the compressor and the gun. It's lasted really well, it's lasted for a long time. It's great for this sort of undercoating. I do own a much nicer air gun, which I tend to not use so much, so I do have this one, the Iwata Eclipse, which is a much nicer air gun and supposed to be much better for painting, but I've not actually painted any miniatures yet. I will have a go with that at some point. So with all that being said, let's go with this. I'm going to use the khaki paint, so similar to what I used on the last one. It sort of just gives it the undertone really. It's quite a nice natural tone. So let's see how well this sprays. I'll probably water this down a little bit before it first goes on. Going to put a little bit of water in there, probably go about 50-50 or so. Also just going to check that we are live to the public. It's just none of my information is refreshing. So let me just give this a little shake actually. I might have put a bit too much in there, but it's okay. I'll use a cheap brush just to mix that together. Maybe if I switch to my top, you can see I'm not doing anything special, just giving it a mix inside the cup. And if you watch any airbrushing, you'll also see everybody do this, which just sort of backfills the air. I have to excuse the noise, I guess, while this is going on. I'm not sure how loud it's going to pick up. Might need a couple of coats to cover this blue. It's not coming out particularly well. Could be that the nozzle's a bit dirty actually. It might need cleaning. I don't look after this airbrush particularly well. Might also need to just thin it down as well, that might help a little bit. But it's covering okay. We'll get there soon. So I don't know if anybody uses airbrushes. I tend to use them quite a lot for my terrain, just because they do speed things up. Initially when I first started airbrushing, I didn't like cleaning the airbrush, so I tended to not use it too often. But once you sort of get used to the cleaning, it's not that bad really. There's some discussion whether a airbrush is an essential tool or not. I find it hard to say it's essential, but it definitely does help. And I think if you watch some people, they are amazing with the airbrush when painting like really small minis, and I just don't have that level of control to be any good at controlling that sort of detail. As you can see, I can barely spray this, let alone being able to do a miniature. But it does create a really nice covering and is a little bit quicker than a paintbrush, particularly when it's working properly. I'm just going to do this all over so we get a sort of a unified look. I think that's probably good enough, so we need to give this a little clean out. Let me just move around. It's not going to be particularly exciting viewing this, but I just need to clean the brush out. I'm just going to pour the paint away. And then I use these squeezy bottles to just squeeze water into the cup, and it tends to do a pretty good job of cleaning them out. And I think when this stream's finished, I might take this to pieces and give it a proper clean. We definitely made way more paint there than we needed to make though. Such a weird thing streaming to and talking to no people. I wasn't necessarily expecting anybody to be on at this time. It's quite peculiar talking to myself, or talking to future viewers, I guess. But so let me just quickly cover the house itself. One of the things I'm looking at doing when in magazine 10 is we're creating a lot of Rohan buildings. I want to create a number of templates that people can use. Mainly because when you look at these things, it's nearly always the scale that sort of puts you off, or you get it a little bit too big or a little bit too small, and it tends to just really ruin the look, and you end up with different views on your battlefield, which can be distracting. I mean, it doesn't matter ultimately, but I do like to get the scale right, so I'm creating a few of these sort of templates which you can just follow for the dimensions. So that's exactly what I used to build this. You can sort of tell all the parts that are put on here. We made this on last stream. So all these are essentially these pieces that we've then stuck together to make the shell of this house. In the last episode we made up all the wood, so you can go back and have a look at how we did that. And I want to make a number of different sort of houses, like some stables and maybe a bigger hall. I might 3D model some additional pieces, like a door. Almost a piece of wood there. Like a door to go into here, and maybe some windows that we can put on here. But this is really sort of version 1 of the house. See where we get to. So let's do some brown paint now. So let's get everything up. So I'm using this cheap paint which I got from B&Q, which is a DIY shop in the UK, and it's just it was 50p like on sale. One thing that you need to sort of do before you buy this emulsion is just make sure it's matte. If you buy the high gloss, it's not going to look great. The silk, which is in between, which again just doesn't look great, but the matte covers exceptionally well. and definitely the one that I would recommend. I have tried a number now, a number of different paints, and the matte is definitely the best paint to go with. The brand I would most recommend, which is probably available in most DIY shops, knocked the door off, at least in the UK, is Farrow and Ball paints, which is this. I can't speak with that in my mouth. Which is this one. The Farrow and Ball paints tend to cover extremely well, and I'm going to start getting a bigger collection of those paints, which I'll probably do to replace this brown, because this brown's nearly finished now. The other thing to sort of consider is this blue foam. You don't need to undercoat it with these paints. As you saw with spray painting the top, like there's no problem with just painting directly onto the foam. It covers really well. And there's always I've been doing a lot of this sort of crafting as I've been working through the magazines. Which if you're viewing this for the first time and you get to this point in the video, I'm doing all 91 magazines that were released by Games Workshop that matched with the movies. So they were released early 2000s, and I've got all 91 with all the models that came with it. And each magazine, there's a battle game where you play the game, and there's a modelling workshop where we build something, and then there's painting workshop where we paint the figure that was included with the magazine. But I do have one here, which is the one I'm currently working through. So it's these magazines, if you've not seen these before, and I'm just working through all the magazines. So in this one you can see they make a Rohan house, make it slightly different to what I'm making. They use I think it's a Twinings tea box to sort of become the box shape of the house. But again, the problem with using boxes is they're all different sizes, so you don't know whether you're making it too big or too small. They also don't necessarily use the wood panelling. They use this sort of texture, which I might do one of them in that texture, but I much prefer the sort of wood panelling look. I think it just looks more Rohan than the white plaster. But it does tend to be personal preference. So if you want to join along anyway, just go have a look at some of the older videos, see if you like those videos. Subscribe to this. I will be doing, I think, some more live streaming. I tend to do a lot of this modelling and painting, and it's just me in my loft put an audiobook on. So I thought I could try live streaming while I'm modelling and get an opportunity to meet similar people who are interested in similar things. I met a great guy on the last one, a guy called Tim, who went and subscribed and then also went on to be a patron as well, which I massively appreciate. On the Patreon is all the files that I've done on the last videos. There's quite a lot of 3D printed models and guides, and for modelling more than for the painting. If you want to see the painting videos, they're all on my channel as well. Obviously you can join Patreon for free as well, so you get some sort of newsletter stuff on there, but I do appreciate anybody who sort of goes that extra mile and supports me as I'm trying to build this channel. And if you've not tried out like this before as well, this is like, it's not an overly complicated build, but you do tend to need quite a lot of things to get going. There's some much easier builds in my early videos, like building some ruins and stuff. They tend to be a little bit easier to pick up if you're new to modelling. But since I've started terrain modelling, it's quickly become one of my favourite parts of the hobby. You can just sort of relax into it. You can unleash a little bit of creativity, which is obviously really nice. And at the end, you do get something that you can be proud to show people. I do like this part of the crafting where I've gone through what you would probably call the ugly stage of the crafting, and we've arrived at a sort of much nicer point where we're kind of putting everything together. See if I can just give you a little different camera angle. I'm also testing with the stream, so any feedback, if you're at this part of the video, any feedback on the setup, on the cameras, on the angles, on the audio, on what you'd like to see, would be much appreciated, whether it's good or bad. I'm the kind of person who takes constructive feedback quite well. I'm only trying to create the sort of best content that I'm capable of creating as I'm learning more and more about YouTube and how to create content, how to talk to yourself for an hour and a half, which is a skill that I have yet to master. I did do another one of these houses as my sort of initial test build, so if you have a quick look at that, that was this one, which I created first. But you can see the wood's a lot bigger here. It doesn't look quite as nice. The house isn't quite as long, so scale wise it sort of looked wrong when it was placed next to figures. So I sort of did this new way. I've not gone quite so strong on the texturing of the wood, and the wood is much thinner. This wood's quite thick, which gives these deep recesses, which from a scale perspective just looked completely wrong. So I went sort of back to the drawing board, I guess, and created another type following the similar idea, but with slightly better scale. And that's the other thing that I quite like about the crafting, is the adjusting and sort of making it better each time. And I tend to put a lot of practice in before the video comes out for anybody to watch on YouTube. But that's, I guess, is the nice thing about streaming, is that you can see all these things happening to me as I'm going through them. It's a shame the front of the house popped off, but clearly I need to attach it better. But that's pretty much, that's all the painting done. I just need to wait for that to dry a little bit. Maybe get into those little recesses there. I am aware that there is currently no door for anybody to get in this building, which is why I built this porch for now, so that at least it represents an entrance into the building. I just need to stick this on. So if we stick this over to dry, and we can paint this one up as well. This was one of the sort of more fiddly parts of the build, just because it's so small and didn't link up together particularly well. It's just a cardboard frame which we built up in the last video. So I might look at a different sort of materials as well for building this out finally, but I do quite like just thin cardboard sometimes. As with everything, it tends to be, you can achieve the same thing with multiple different materials. So sometimes it's just about using whatever you've got to hand or whatever you particularly like working with. There's been a few people contacting me recently around the fact that they've also sort of found these magazines and started doing the magazines. So if you have them or you remember them, I'd love to hear some more of that. There's some people doing it with their kids, and there's some people who, like me, just picking it up later on and just getting back in. I got back into it about 5 years ago now. So I would like to sort of hear from more people, so even just leave me a comment and say hi, that'd be nice. Also learning about streaming. I'm not really big on streaming, and I'm not big on streaming knowledge, I should say. I'm not actually sure how long you're supposed to stream for or how long you should stream for. All I do know is that practice of these things tends to make it better, so that's why I'm here. Okay, so that's pretty good. Could be good enough to sort of stick onto the house, but I think we'll wait for it to dry. I'm just going to have a quick look over the house and see if there's any bits we've missed. It's always worth that extra look over. You tend to find these little bits that you missed. I do this on my models as well. I think I've got everywhere, and then suddenly I realise I've missed right underneath one of the legs or something. Not that anybody should be coming to your games and picking up your models and looking underneath them to look for problems that you maybe missed on your models. Okay, I think we can probably call the initial base coat as done. And we're going to use dry brushing to sort of pick out that detail. I think we can probably do the roof has probably been sat long enough that we can do a first dry brush on it and see how it comes out. I'm just going to use this explosion gas, which is the same brand as this, so nice matte paint, picked up at the same time for no money. I'm just going to do our usual dry brushing, which I'll switch to the top. So for dry brushing, just a small amount of paint on the brush, rub it into the bristles, and then we rub most of the paint off, so we should be left with not much paint on afterwards, and then tend to pull down in sort of like top down direction. You can also press lighter rather than taking all the paint off. Depends how you want to work. For terrain, it tends to be not too much of a problem. If you get it a little bit wrong or a little bit too much paint, on miniatures it stands out way more. I'm really pleased with this, with the texture that we created on the rooftops. I said in the last video that I've tried multiple ways of sort of creating this thatch look, and this really is the quickest and easiest way to do it. It didn't take much time at all to create this effect, and I think it looks really good. I think anybody who sees it will immediately know it's thatch. I also use these really cheap makeup brushes. I bought a pack of 10 or something from Amazon, just so I can, when they go a little bit like this where they've gone hard now, that's not supposed to come off. Need to re-glue that. When they go a little bit hard, you can just throw them away and start on a new brush, because we're not spending lots of money on the dry brushes. If you do any dry brushing, you may have bought some expensive ones. Do not use those ones for doing this. Just cheap makeup brush is perfect. The other thing with dry brushing is you can just sort of keep layering it up. If you think it's a bit light, just do a little bit more. Obviously, you should also consider like where the light's coming from. Sort of this top-down idea, or this zenithal idea, which seems to be prevalent amongst miniatures. But at least at the very simplest form, you're probably going to get more sunlight on the very top of the buildings than you are like underneath here, for example. Don't know how well the extra detail sort of picks up on camera. Doesn't look too bad for me. So I can see all the details sort of pulling out. There we go, I think that's the roof. It looks good, and I need to find where this plank has come from. I think it's come from there, so let's just apply a little bit of glue while I'm here. Just going to use some additional Pretty Stick. I've not long attached these, so the glue's not actually properly gone off before we started painting, so I imagine this is going to come off again when we go into the dry brushing phase. That's actually still wet. I thought it might have dried by the time we got here, but it hasn't, so maybe we'll just give it a blast with a hairdryer. The hairdryer, if you can hear me, the hairdryer is a essential hobby craft. Looks close enough. Just bear with me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I think let's go with some more dry brushing now. I'm going to use the same colour, this sort of nice grey colour. The good thing about the grey colour is it tends to give quite a nice dry brushing to everything. I think it's a similar idea to, I forgot the name of the YouTuber who uses pale sand for everything. Completely forgot her name. which is very annoying. But I think it's a similar sort of premise. You can use this sort of creamy grey colour to highlight pretty much anything, which does make it quite easy, particularly on sort of terrain pieces. So this wood, we cut individual pieces of foam, so you get this sort of nice, some pieces are sort of deeper in than others, so you get this really nice depth. So going side to side like this really picks up the difference in height of these planks and really sort of makes them stand out. You can see the difference between once you sort of apply some simple dry brushing versus no dry brushing at all, where you don't really get to see the detail. But just a very simple dry brush side to side just really brings out everything on the miniature, and it just looks so good for very, very little effort, although we put all the effort into making the planks, I guess. A little bit of top down, sort of pick up any of the sort of wood grain that we put into there as well. I think that looks really good. I'm really happy with the scale that we sort of got. So these are 5mm planks. I'm not 100% sure on the actual scale, but it works really nice for these. I think they look really good. Let's continue and just do the front of the building, or the back, doesn't really matter. So I'll do way too much paint on there. As you can see now, I've got these streaks, so hopefully we'll lose those as we apply a bit more dry brushing. Clearly went a little bit heavy there. If you do that, you can sort of hide it with some slightly different directions on top of the previous line, and it tends to hide the majority of those problems. There we go. Just one more side to go. As you can see, it's not taken that long to paint up. I can't 100% see how long I've been streaming for, but maybe half an hour. Doesn't take that long. So this sort of method of using these planks and then brown and dry brushing is really quite a quick method. I do need to remember when I'm streaming to check my camera angles. Sometimes I end up doing it all off camera, even though I've got 3 cameras pointing at me now. I'll still manage to miss it. I think that probably again comes with practice. I'm so used to just modelling on my own, just with nothing but like an audio book playing, that actually been having to worry about cameras and who can see what and which one to press is still quite new to me. Again, that's why I'm streaming right now, just so I can practice switching between these. So I think we can say that looks very nice now. Got a bit of blue showing there. I think that's probably because that has pulled up. The ends here, where you can see the blue, are actually going to be covered. We're going to attach one of these to either end, so you won't be able to see these ends on here really. They'll be covered by this. So I need to attach this, which I'll do off stream. So I think let's have a look. The porch is pretty much done as well. It might just need a little bit of a dry. Also, I wasn't sure with streaming on YouTube versus streaming on something like Twitch, which I think has got a sort of much bigger sort of following, but I really want to sort of grow my YouTube audience, which is why I chose YouTube in the first place. I don't know if there's as many people who want to watch streaming on YouTube, so it's am I streaming to a smaller audience, or in this case no audience at all? Once we've done this, let's just do a little check for scale, so I'll see what it looks like with all the pieces together. Because if I'm happy with the scale, I'm going to go design up a whole load more templates and start crafting the additional ones out. I will attach this properly, but for now it can just sort of sit there. If I turn this way, we can see it a bit better on camera. And I should have some Rohan warriors somewhere. Here we go. It's my with bow in these display cases that I created, and these little sort of carry cases, which is nice for getting them in and out. And I'm trying to build like a wall and all these things, so I do have a wall. It's not quite a wall yet, it's a small wall. And along with those, when I'm playing the game, I also can use these, which I make, and I've got a number of them for everybody who I play with. And then I've got these sort of hand, rather than having to have the rule book or try remember exactly what's on what. They really help. So I think scale-wise, it would have probably been nice if he fit in there, but then this would probably look too scaled, too big. If we imagine if we didn't have the base and we were just the man, it's probably about the right size. I think the wood in terms of scale is pretty much on. The height should also be good. The height was taken from a measurement from a picture of the Games Workshop ones. Just put this light here, you might be able to just see them a bit brighter on camera. Was just taken from a measurement, so it's 4 centimeters high. And I think they look pretty much perfect for the sort of height that we want against each one. So you can definitely sort of imagine these would, on a battlefield, like a collection of these houses with some proper doors and some windows. Will probably look really good. I think I'll continue to make some more. Might see if I can rescue this smaller house, because I've made it now, so I might see if I can take all this off and just use the frame, create a smaller, closer to a barn, I guess. And I want to create a stable and a bigger hall. On that, thanks for anybody who watches this video afterwards. Again, just let me know what you think about this stream, if there's anything you would like to see or anything you would like to suggest about the stream. I'm open to all opinions. Thank you very much. It's just gone past midnight, quarter past midnight, so that's a good reason why nobody's on the stream. And I will speak to you soon. Happy painting on happy crafting.